Ginger.
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 Where's she gone?
Ginger. Ginger.
Ginger.
Ginger.
No, I don't know.
Ginger.
Ginger.
Maude, it's a Maude Cast, Season 2, Religious Love and Incest. Probably not a pharmacist still, though we haven't proved it yet. Knocker down of Skittles, Midwest girl next door voice, purveyor of saucy victuals, cousin to the Tinker Turnbulls, supportive wife and mother, just learning to be more judgeful. Maude Cast.
Good job. Good work.
Said he couldn't be done, Nathan O'Leary, my biological brother. They said it could not be done.
16, 15.
15, episode 15 of the Maude Cast. I know we got a special, kind of special, but not so special episode. You want to tell the good people at home how this one is different from the previous 14-1?
Yes, this is a Bongo Cast. So we're going to look at a selection of Maude's comic appearances, 5 of them, spanning maybe a decade.
Really?
I think so. Some of them I remember from being a kid.
Okay. So just to clarify, what's your stance on this in terms of canon?
I'd like to count all the stuff that we can, to be honest. I think we should just say it's all in there.
It's all canon. Why wouldn't it be?
Yes, except for, special stories like Trace of Horror or things of that nature.
Yes. Well, one of which we do have. This is the first non-canon story that appears in any episode so far. Everything so far as I know, has been canon. Not a special story, not a what if, but a canon. So this is the first for us. So hello, good morning, and Ned come. Don't eat a ham, buddy. Brought to you the Maude Cast. Brought to you by the Maude Casting Corporation, a division of Dibney Multiple Conger Eels Incorporated. Sponsors: TV show Lost, TV show Twin Peaks, Vivacious RuPaul 6, Drag Race 6, and possible Rockstar All-Star Season 9, if your thing last week is anything to go by. Cerebus the Aardvark, Scott Walker, rest in peace, Jacques, Requiem for a Dream, Derrida. And interestingly enough, no Derrida quote this week, because I met him at the bus stop and I said, Jacques, what are you doing? First of all, aren't you dead? And he said, no, I'm not dead. A spectre is haunting Twitter, he said, mumbled to himself. And then he set off down the street with a bag with the word hauntology spray painted on the side of it, and he tottered off down the street. I'm hoping he'll be back with a quote next episode, but for today, we're just going to have to truck on.
Too busy.
Too busy.
Too many bongos.
Too many bongos in the pot. But let's do a quick Mauditorium, 30 seconds. Just give me one. We'll just zip through it.
Number 38.
Alrighty. Number 38, her own rage problem. She has a rage problem of her own, and she's not against the odd power trip. What do you make of that? Maude, does she have a rage problem? And is she happy to use her power to gain prestige and good times over others?
No and yes. No to the rage. I don't think she has. She might have anger, but there's no rage in the way that Ned, like breathe through your damn mouth, or when he screams at the entire town after they build him a house. There's none of that with Maude, really. But I might she's used her power several times already for her own advantage, including getting Marge sent to prison.
Ka-ching!
Getting Marge sent to prison was once she's running with something, she tends to run, the whole 9 yards.
The whole gamut, the gauntlet, the running man.
But I wouldn't say that she has a rage problem.
No rage problem, but she's not against the odd power trip. Okay. So we, as you know, if you're a first-time listener, we are owners of Maude Flanders Internet Museum, knockoff theme park database, fishmongery, and hot cake hat restaurant. You'll find us just near the bins from Worsley Main's Netto car park, in the discount shopping area of the town next to Aldi, Netto, Little, Freezeway, Farm Foods, Bargain Booze, Cost Cutter, Pound Destroyer, Cash Mutilator, Happy Shopper, Wavy Line, and Pence Harasser. 3 doors down for Pound Smasher if you can't find us. Now, we've had a lot of stuff going on in the last few weeks. We were in prison for a while, but thankfully, your 2-man, 1-man Truman show for the officers, the parole officers, was a triumph, and they let us go on that very same day. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was overwhelming, the response. People were openly weeping in the seats, not even in the seats, in the aisles, and they just immediately said, off you go. That'll do, pig.
That'll do, pig. and they opened the door and they just let us go free. And at the same time, of course, all of the other prisoners ran out free as well. So that caused a little bit of chaos. But we strolled free in our orange jumpsuits. And maybe we'll take your show, Life After Ned, where we investigate what Maude did in the afterlife. Maybe we'll get to see a little bit more of that when we take it on our off Broadway show next summer. But first of all, to business. We got a job interview. Now, I'm a little bit busy, so I can't do this one, but you're going to interview actually a relative of ours for a job that we've got going, a vacancy at the MFIFDSEFIDBM. Do you want to set it up? Well, I've got to go now, so bye. But I think I just see the candidate coming in through the door. You want to give us a setup? Bye.
Yeah, see ya. We're interviewing to replace Stamp after his wild departure, and we have a stream of interviews today. One of them happening right now with a man named John.
Hello, hello, you man from Maud Flanders Internet Museum. Where should I sit down for me job interview?
Please remain standing.
I'm a bit tired. Can I sit on your desk?
No.
Just lean.
Not yet.
Can I just lean?
No.
Okay, I'll stand up then. What do you want me to tell you? I want this job.
Why do you think that you should be employed? What do you think you bring?
In it now, because I was I shouldn't tell you this, but I got fired from my last 2 places in the last 2 weeks for number one, using the ovens at neat, and also for being a whistleblower. So I need this job because I've got quite high gambling debts and some addictions don't want to talk about.
Okay. What can you tell us more about the whistleblowing? Because that is something that we are looking for, believe it or not.
You know, well, Lord, you know what I did do is I went working for CIA American CIA, Cops in Action, I think it's called. And I was working at a bakery for them, but obviously it's in middle of like a spy headquarters. So I'm seeing all people coming and going. And I saw a man who looked a bit like a foreigner. So I wrestled him to the ground and I said, "This is proper Cops in Action, American style, not you foreigner." And he says, "I'm boss of Cops in Action and you're in trouble, you bloody whistleblower." And I said, "I don't even know what whistle. I'm not blowing any whistle." And then I tell you what, throw me through a plate glass window.
Wow, that sounds.
I thought I was doing the right thing, grappling foreigners. I mean,
okay, so you didn't.
Foreigner myself, I'm from Holland. That was Dutch.
I see. Well, so that wasn't really whistleblowing. That was just sort of a pro.
Hey, mate, it's with their terms, not mine, isn't it?
Pro anti-foreign attack. So that's a strike.
Do I get a job?
Well, that's a strike 4, but you have several questions left yet.
Come on, then.
I'd like you to describe yourself in 3.5 words.
Mananta was Dutch.
And will you say them again, but slower?
Mananta was Dutch.
Yes, good. And now could you...
You look a lot like that my nephew with glasses one, and where's the other one with contact lenses? You look just like him.
Yeah, I am him.
You're him off that cat pod. I do stats for them cats, cat pod.
Yeah, Maude Cats.
I do stats for them. Do you know him?
Good.
Do you not remember me?
I remember you, but you still have to go through the formalities.
Oh man, you look just like him.
What changes would you make to the Mauditorium Museum?
Oh, yeah, I tell you what I won't do. I won't use your ovens for make my own bespoke craft mac and cheese. Not again. I've learned my lesson.
Well, that's good. We don't have any ovens, so
I've learned my lesson. You are spitz.
We have a lot of freezers. We don't have any ovens.
Listen, don't give me no ideas, because I'm an entrepreneur.
What
You bloody spits of him.
What are your weaknesses?
I have no weaknesses. I am a fucking pure tempest of infinite force.
Good. So far, so good.
What's with all these questions? Have I got a job or what?
Well, there's one final question.
Good. Speed it up. Got a buzz coming. Listen, my mate Stamp, what's hiding up in my attic, says he's got some knobheads on his trail. he's had an attic and he said I can just have his job. So I don't know why you're even asking me these questions.
Yeah, well, it's not up to him.
Hey man,
But we're all
stats for you. Number of jobs, 1. Number of jobs you give to me, also 1.
yes, almost. Last question.
Hit me.
What? Helen Lovejoy? Yes or no?
Listen, I like Spender, I like Cracker, I like Nuns on Run. I don't even watch Lovejoy or like Joy, though I do like Ian McShane's hairstyle. So
Yes.
got job.
They could set it in the future where antiques would be even more valuable. Yeah, you've got the job.
Hooray! I gotta go now. I got my bus coming and stamp siding in my attic. I got for telling me I got a job. Love you. Bye. See you at morning.
Bye. Good job.
Oh, well, I'm glad I just got back in time from buying those pies for your lunch. Did you finish interviewing Uncle John Statman?
Yes. I told him he got the job, but he hasn't.
He succeeded. Well, I tell you what we'll do. We'll let him come and turn up a job and do the job, but we'll never tell him he's actually not got it. So he'll never get any money for it, but he'll do the job. All right. Well, that's good. So that's one. We can take that off the list. So should we get straight into content?
Let's do it. I made notes.
Nice. Copious notes.
Yeah.
So this is a whole new paradigm, isn't it? Trying to comics, because the benefit is that we can look at the comics right in front of us while we're doing it. The drawback is they're mostly shit.
Yeah. They don't. There's no I don't know, it's harder to single things out, but we're going to try. Yeah.
So excerpt 1, you chose these and they were fine choices. What were you going to say about the comics?
I was thinking it's probably easier to do the comic as a whole rather than the panels.
Well, that's interesting. But I've made notes panel by panel.
I sort of, the notes are referencing panels, but I don't know. Let's just see how it goes.
Very good. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Excerpt 1 comes from Simpsons Comics number 12, Survival of the Fattest. Your note says the Simpsons and the Flanders enter some kind of reality TV competition. Now, I think the first panel that you put in doesn't actually relate to this story, although to be honest, it's quite hard to understand what's going on in this story. But panel number 1 has a scene we've actually seen very similar before in the actual real show, where the Flanders turn up and sing a song at the Simpsons' door. So Maude and Ned and the boys arrive at the door singing "We Wish You a Merry Christmas." Homer points out that it's the middle of July, and Ned says it's never too early for a little Yuletide cheer, and they're warming up the old vocal cords. Maude, definitely singing. She has a little line. I looked it up. It's called a tail, and the tail is going to her mouth.
Yes, that was the note. My first note. I think this is why I included this, because now she's singing in written form. She couldn't be more into singing, is what we've learned. What I've personally learned about Maude in the last 16 weeks.
Well, we think that she likes singing, and there's a hell of a lot of singing and music related to Maude Flanders. I would say 75% of the clips have somebody singing in them. Often her, even though you often debate whether or not she's singing. In this case, it's right there in front of you.
Yeah, she's singing.
What kind of date would you put this on? Like which season are we kind of looking at here?
My guess is because I remember buying these comics, so it's got to be like 1998, 1999, so it's got to be around season 9 or 10.
Oh,
pretty late in the day. As well, when we get to the third comic of the Bongo Cast, I have some notes about Maude's death and the timing.
There is a little bit of foreshadowing in one of them, but I believe it's the fourth one where we...
Not foreshadowing. Post-shadowing.
Oh, the fourth one is post-shadowing. Okay. Anyway, I just want to point out that particular frame, and it actually is tied with several other frames for the worst Rod or Todd drawing. In this case, it's a very bad Todd.
The Maude is particularly bad too. She looks like President Song Maude.
Yes, she's up there with PSM, and it's arguably not the worst one on that page. Whoever drew this comic, although there is a There is a really good drawing in one of the pages, in like of these two that you've got, but that one particularly bad. And it seems that actually they can only really draw, the person who drew this can only really draw Maude even passably fully from the side on, when you get a full on duck. Any other one, it's there's like her features are all squashed up really close together.
Yeah, there's a looseness, there's a season 1 looseness to these comics that I think is sort of magical.
Charming. That's very kind. It's a very kind description.
Yeah.
A white lightning looseness. So we cut to the first real panel of the story you shared. And so, Flanders is shouting over, "What's up? Que pasa?" in Spanish, if you will. Neddie's calling over the fence to Homer. "We've decided to go Mexican tonight. Come and give the old piñata a whack." They got a donkey piñata. The Simpsons are in a field next to the Flanders' house, which is not the Flanders' house. I know that, but they're in a kind of field. There's a bunch of trees around. Ned's on some kind of decking. I don't know where they are, but there's a long table packed with all kinds of Mexican stuff and the regular Simpsons gloop that passes for any kind of food. This is like a blue gloop. Maude is basically just sitting content wearing his sombrero, staring off into space and smiling. Not a care in the world.
Yeah. My disclaimer for this that I should have thrown in earlier is that I haven't read the entirety of any of these comics. So I also don't really know what the general plot is. From this one, I can sort of surmise just from the, like, Troy McClure shows up at some point, and I've sort of worked out that they seem to go on some kind of reality show, but I still can't work out if they are aware that they're on a reality show. And the whole thing is Ned and the Flanders just doing a better job than Homer and the Simpsons, which is sort of like the Leftorium episode.
So hammering it home to Homer J and the clan that the Flanders will just do the best of any situation. Because, yeah, they're bizarrely... Well, first of all, let me just ask what you think Maude is making of the Mexican food, because it's not quite foreign, but it's certainly not quite American.
Yeah, well, she seems to be quite into it. Like, she's particularly cultured in this comic, or she's into the idea of, like, experiencing other cultures, which is... I think that's something, like, I don't think she actively seeks things, but if they're brought to her, like, doorstep, she isn't against, like, maybe, like, throwing on a hula dress and doing some, like, luau stuff if Hurley from Lost shows up.
Maybe comic Maude is just a little bit more open-minded than TV Maude.
Maybe
there are some clues in here that we're in a slightly alternate universe, or maybe not. Maybe it's all pure canon. Now, in true non sequitur bizarro form, the next panel, this is kind of why I had to go through this one panel by panel, because each panel seems to have no connection whatsoever to the previous panel. These are not connected, right? You've taken them from different pages.
Yeah, it's not like the next... To be fair, though, that one isn't that far away. Like, it just starts snowing in the Mexican thing.
Yeah.
And then it's just all covered in snow. But again, it's supposed to be like a TV show, isn't it? So
it's a fake Truman Show kind of thing. But so which
is in itself strange.
It's a strange setup, but I guess that the comics would go for more outlandish setups because they don't have as much time to explain them, but they can do wackier stuff quickly. Like, I'm sure the comics have lots of time travel and alien invasions. Those are your standard tropes to get to bang out a story in 20 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, Futurama crossover.
Yes. Not a lot of character development and relationship nuance.
No, but Maude in a snowsuit.
But Maude in a snowsuit, yes, good segue. We cut immediately to the Flanders in full Arctic gear with a sled with snow dogs, all in matching outfits. Ned has his arm around Maude, showing that strong Flanders bond. Maude smiling again and staring off into space, as basically that's all she does in this entire comic is her just staring off into space, smiling. At least in this case, she's smiling about something that is not deadly. In other panels, she continues to smile and stare into space, even though her life is at risk. But the Simpsons just, ploop, just pop up out of the snow. And Ned says, "Snow angels on our yard in 10 tickly ticks of the clock." I noted that Maude not really bringing much to the table here. Just a sideways duck face and a 1,000-yard stare.
Yeah, I do like the design. Sorry, it's classic duck face Maude. I think the more elongated a face is, the more that's the design I kind of like.
Do you think you could draw a series of Maude pictures in which her sideways duck face is incredibly elongated?
Yes.
Good. I'd like to see that. Maybe a sideways, like in a coin, so you see her head from the side. But the top lip protrudes out very, very far. Duck face Maude.
Like the Mauditorium doll.
Yes, a Mauditorium doll.
Yes.
But Maude not bringing much to the table here. Do you concur? Do you have much to add?
No, I agree. I think the next panel is the most telling panel of this comic.
The next panel, where they are playing charades.
1 second. Yeah. All right. See you later. Love ya.
In the next panel, they're playing charades, and the Flanders and the Simpsons minus Homer in some kind of wooden cabin that's pretty much empty, other than a mat on the floor. And Ned is acting out something. He's got like a sheet wrapped around him. He's carrying some books. Rod guesses it's Jesus healing the blind. Todd guesses that it's Lazarus riding from the dead. Now, of course, it's clearly Moses bringing the Ten Commandments down from Mount Sinai. However, Bart, in possibly the most uninspired line and lazy and not funny line in a comic that is peppered with them, says it's some geek wearing a sheet carrying 2 books. Does that pass for human? Did I miss something?
Who says that, Marge?
That's Bart. He's just relying. Oh. The rest of the family's all falling asleep except for Maude. And the Flanders boys are getting into it. And Maude's sitting up there with great posture, completely engaged in Neddy's charadery. Again, bringing nothing but a duck face and a smile, but she's there. She's supporting Ned in his charades. The Simpsons family, however, are all falling asleep.
Yeah, it's possible that could be, when we're looking at the TV show, like, we're looking at people like Conan O'Brien or like Jim Reardon, the guy who did Wall-E and stuff. And with these comics, this could well just be someone who got like a 2-2 at Leicester Uni. It
could well be someone who banged out like an evening school graphics design course in a weekend and then somehow got taken on board. These are American ones, though. They are drawn by, they're drawn by some kind of Bongo staff, right? They're not one of those crappy, Marvel UK. They'd always be, I'd buy Spider-Man comics and there'd be reprints of American. So you'd have a couple of Spider-Man comics in there, and there'd always be a couple of pages drawn by a British artist, and sometimes they were great, but the majority of them were just really shoddy, second-rate art. That's kind of.
Well, I remember kind of stopping by in the Simpsons comics at like 12 or 13 because the design just started getting. It was intentional. But the design style just started getting really bad.
They intentionally made the design really bad from about issue 50 onwards.
It was like issue 110. It was sort of like sort of guest animators or guest designers, but they all just look really, really cheap. There's some included in this. There's like a Halloween one that they included that just looks like a kid drew it.
But there is, like I said, one really good drawing in this we're coming to in a minute. But so then we get on to the very telling picture. That wasn't the one you're talking about. You're talking about this one now, right? The one coming up. So the post-charades, Simpson and Flanders, still minus Homer, engaging in some art. Rod and Todd are making a little wooden church model. Bart's making, he's having a go at making a very wobbly pot, some handprints from Maggie. But Marge and Maude both painting. Now, I thought we'd established pretty strongly that Marge was the painter and Maude was a knitter, and a wind chime maker, among other things.
Yeah, this just either turned that on its head, or like Maude is just again like embracing stuff like the Mexican and the snow. Maybe Marge started painting, and Maude thought, why I'm here, let's have a go. And this is maybe how she found out, it's not for me. So I'm going to place this. I'm going to say this is roughly. I don't think it is, but for the sake of us, this is roughly where we're up to in the TV show.
Roughly season 5.
Yeah, but probably season 9, but roughly season 5.
So I think I'll accept that as some sound logical reasoning. She's there. They're all doing some art. Why not try something a bit new? I'm not sure who's provided them with all these art supplies. There don't seem to be any art supplies around other than the ones they actually have in their hands. So maybe they were giving a very limited amount. Here, you can have this palette with these tiny bits of paint on it and a brush and a canvas. And, Maude, God bless her, she's making the best of it.
Yeah, and again, just kind of placid, poorly designed smile.
Well, the thing is, in the same panel, now I've gone for the arts, as an artist, I'm interested in that, but I should probably point out that smoke is coming from under the door, and it appears that the building is on fire. And
yeah.
Bart of all people turns and shouts, "What is that?" Maude looks at the door and the smoke and just simply smiles at it. And my note here is there something wrong with her?
Yeah, there is something wrong with her. We know this. She's got some kind of death wish. She sort of enjoys, this is going to jazz things up a bit. No more painting. This will spice things up.
Another trait, right, that follows Maude around is, first of all, a lot of music, and second of all, just like very, very dangerous situations. Either she's choosing to put herself in, or she's moving towards, or she's just encountering serial killers, high-speed chases, buildings on fire.
It's just, it's a big recurring theme, and she always sort of, doesn't seem to hate it, does she?
Well, she doesn't seem to have much of an emotional response to it whatsoever, other than a sly smile. It looks like maybe there's I don't want to cast any aspersions here, but is there free booze at this in this reality TV show? Because it might explain why she just kind of like standing there swaying and smiling.
Maybe, but I thought we established that she didn't drink.
Well, we also established that she didn't stuff her face with ice cream, but I think last week's hidden camera told us a lot. Who knows whether she likes the odd, he does the sign with the little finger. Who knows what
drink emotion.
So here is my favorite drawing in these 2 pages, when Homer, again, somewhat inexplicably, I'm guessing Ned for some reason puts up some kind of fight, but Homer just smacks as hard as he can across the face, knocks him out, and puts him in a fireman's lift over his shoulder and says, "Come on, I think I know a way out." And the building is on fire. We don't know why it's on fire. I'd have to guess Homer started the fire, probably accidentally. And I don't know why he smacked Ned in the face. And to be honest, I don't know why this panel's even here, because Maude, I'm related to it, but I'm glad it is here. It's a great drawing.
Yeah. Well, that's what I left it in, because it was just funny. It was a funny drawing, and it also related to, the Homer and Ned stuff we looked at last week. But again, I don't really think there's much context leading up to this. I think there's a fire, and Homer's response to getting them out as quickly as possible is to just knock Ned unconscious, to stop him whining.
And I think I do kind of like that. Like, we don't have time to explore detailed plot twists here, so we're just going to have to get from A to B as quickly as possible. And the quickest way is for Homer to just strike Ned very hard across the face. Yeah. So comedy, violence, and ridiculous ways to push the plot forward. However, even though he does knock Ned out, this is almost payback for when Homer's house burned down and Ned saved him, right? Not too long ago.
Yeah, so it's sort of the universe recycling itself, but in a flip. So it's nice that Homer does, save Ned. There isn't a question of leaving him behind, at least. Whereas Maude, if Ned had knocked Homer out and was struggling, I can imagine Maude saying, "Just leave him.
Just leave him. Maybe just roll him over into that river." He doesn't.
Let him burn.
Let him burn, and then let him drown.
She looks shocked. She has like a gasp look.
Do you think she's not even in the panel?
Oh, sorry. I thought on the fireman's lift one, like her response to him being punched is like like she's like gasp.
She kind of looks back. So we get to the next panel, right, where Homer's got Ned over his shoulder and he says, "Quick, behind the waterfall." And Maude's leading the charge. I imagine the boys have run ahead of her, bravely running into that waterfall, trusting Homer Simpson, which is not a smart idea. But they've done it anyway. Maude's kind of looking back. I think it's hard to tell the look on her face because the drawing really is very, very bad. But she looks somewhere between concerned and also, once again, perplexed but slightly amused by the fact that her husband is now unconscious and her next door neighbor is carrying him. And there's fire all around them and they're escaping through a waterfall, taking it all in her stride.
Yeah, I do like the idea that she's still somewhat amused by all of this.
Absolutely madness. Smiling duck face Maude just letting the world unfold and burn around her. Concern for kids? Minimal. Concern for herself? Very small.
And the last panel after this now, that's the next panel in the actual comic. So her face goes from complete, kind of some kind of confusion and shock to just smiling.
Just glee?
Yeah. That is the next panel in the actual comic. There's nothing in between them.
There's fire coming out from the door behind them. They just walked through smoke. I don't know if they knew they were in this kind of dome, because if they did, it's like bizarre. The whole thing's somewhat bizarre. And there's a door that says exit to Springfield, no re-entry. So it's like, well, to be honest, if the door's still open, I'm pretty sure you could go back in if you wanted to, but why would you? Is this are they paid for a virtual reality for some is this a game show where they were being paid, in which case they've failed?
What I can guess is that it's like who's the last family to not leave Springfield when when the going gets tough, like let's put these two families together and see which is more loyal to Springfield. I think that's just sort of what I can gather from scanning over the comic.
That would kind of make sense that it was a challenge between these two. Why I would say survival of the fattest, I don't know.
Just easy, cheap Homer comedy.
Is that really? Because Ned's not fat.
Yeah.
None of them are fat except for Homer, who's got a bit of a belly. And just the whole thing makes very little sense, as most of these comics do. And in this case, also badly drawn. So moving on. Anything to add to that before we move onwards?
No, I think that was outside of the last one, that was the longest one that we're going to look at now.
Yes.
But we didn't learn anything. I just I liked the different looks of Maude, which is why I included it.
We learned very little more about Maude in here. That she just did all the stuff we'd expect. She backed up Ned. She looked after the boys. She ran headlong towards danger with no regard for anyone's safety. And she smiled aimlessly for no good reason with a duck face. Comic Maude hasn't given us many gems yet, but this next one, Simpsons comic number 50, Wall or Nothing. Your note says Springfield Lake is closed and a town divide forms. Only 2 panels. Panel number 1, we've got Maude standing with her back to us with a T-shirt in her hands. Now, we can't see her T-shirt, but we know that Apu is selling T-shirts that seem to say, I don't heart Upper Springfield. I don't heart Upper Springfield. Ned's wearing a T-shirt and he's literally looking directly at us like it's a camera and just wiggling his arms up and down, which is weird. Is there supposed to be a camera crew there or something?
Oh, possibly actually. Maybe it's on the news or something. The plot of this one, I think, is basically the plot of that episode where the town splits in half and they get a wall.
Okay.
I think it's just a redo of that exact plot. But maybe that hasn't happened yet, actually, in the show. Because Maude still... In fact, no, I'll get into I have some good timeline stuff with this comic that I'll breach in a second. But she's being a supportive capitalist, is what I've written down.
She certainly is. She's buying from Apu to support the negative ideology of their divided town. Homer, no T-shirt, but he stood on top of Barney's, I'm guessing, snowplow, though why that would be out there in the middle of summer, I don't know. Barney did have a snowplow. That name again, Mr. Plow. Homer's making jokes about two guys from Upper Springfield going to a bar where that was two guys from Lower Springfield, which seems to suggest that they're from Upper Springfield, which is why I didn't understand why Neddy was wearing I don't heart Upper Springfield T-shirt. I'm confused as to which part of Upper Springfield or Lower Springfield, which part they represent. But regardless, because Maude is doing nothing other than stirring at Apu, even though she's clearly already bought the T-shirt. So maybe being a good capitalist, but maybe she's forgotten how capitalism works. Yeah.
2 more points about this. Firstly, again, Maude interacting with Apu. So that's building up that sort of, like customer-seller relationship further. And the octuplets are there, which presents us with the very specific situation that doesn't happen a lot, where we can pinpoint. There is only 7 episodes in which the octuplets are born before Maude dies. Nice. So this has got to come somewhere in those 7 episodes, which means that she's pretty close to death at this point. She's not far off her mortal demise.
If we look closely, do we think we can see the spectre of death just hanging around her?
I believe so, but it could also just be Mole Man.
It could just be a wavy line. Could be a shaky hand from the artist. We don't get to see how bad the drawing of Maude's face is because we only see the back of her head, and I think they've done at least a half decent rendering of that. Loves a mob is what I wrote down. Maude can't resist being at least part of a mob at the beginning, but then what she normally does is goes home and misses the rest of the mob's activity. So I imagine she's going to buy this T-shirt and immediately head home.
Well, this is one of the few times that you see her, like when the town's doing the thing that they discussed, that she is actually there. And she's there more heartily than normal.
Really? Well, don't give them too many spoilers yet, because the next one is a revelation. What in goddamn Jiminy Crickets is going on here? So they're in the lake. Can't see any bathing suits. So we've got to infer that everyone's naked. Otto's in there. Ned looking very worried. Rod and Todd are in there. Grandpa, Luann Van Houten, Lunch Lady Doris. I don't know who that dude is with the big curly mustache, but he's pretty cool. You know who he is?
No, I can't remember him. I'll have a look later, and we'll a week too late him.
But here's the real thing. Maude's naked. We got to assume she's naked. Naked as the day she was born, with her dignity only hidden by a well-placed bush. Badly drawn, because it seems like it's floating behind the branches, but well-placed, covering her entire torso, which we have to assume is not covered by anything else. And naked Maude Flanders stood on the banks of a river, lake, and ready to jump in with the moleman and what's that lawyer called?
Lionel Hutz.
Exactly. Absolute madness. Luckily, or maybe because they're kind people, no one's looking directly at her naked yet ample bosom and any other of her parts that might be on display, because she ain't covering. She got her arms out in front of her. She's
not bothered.
She's not bothered. Sideways duck face, semi-closed eyes, gentle smile, full frontal nudity.
Once again, it's just sort of the mob mentality for this. The town divide is sorted. The town divide also has something to do with the lake, and they basically decide that they just all go skinny dipping. That's how the plot is resolved. That's how everybody comes together again. But that is a small sort of, that's the corner of like a full-sized image of sort of everybody in town, just like naked in this lake. But the notes I've made is Ned looks ashamed, Maude looks confident, Todd looks kind of broken, and Rod looks like he's eyeing up either Lionel Hutz or Lenny.
Rod does look like he's having a good old look-see around.
Yeah, but it's very out of character. But again, is it because it's just sort of she's just joining in with the town and the mob mentality. It's just that this time the mob is nude.
The mob is nude. The mob has spoken, and it is naked. But
Yes.
it is definitely not in keeping with Maude's character. There's nothing to suggest, yes, she loves mobs, but to the extent that she would take all her clothes off and jump into the lake, she didn't get in sheepishly before everyone else and just she's brazenly coming in at the last minute, running down the hill, legs akimbo, ready to jump into that thing. And I have to say, I'm with Todd on this one. I think I might be broken if such a thing was happening.
Yeah, also, like, Homer's there, Moe's there. There's people there that she doesn't want to see her in this situation, and she still just doesn't seem to care.
Good Lord.
But yeah, that's why I included this one, because it's the most sort of out of character thing in the comics, really, that I could find.
Well out of the norm. What do you think Homer and Moe are up to? Do you think Homer and Moe are able to keep their bad selves in check, or do you think they're sneaking a sneaky peek?
I think they're both in the image somewhere, and I didn't notice them. You know, I had a quick scan around to see if anybody was checking out Maude, and I couldn't see anything. Everybody's sort of just doing their own thing.
So anyway,
yeah.
I wrote down, good job Homer ain't there, but Homer is there. From what you're saying, Homer was so engaged in his own frolicking that he didn't even spy his chance to be a dirt dog. Thankfully.
No, exactly.
Even though that stuff was well acceptable into the 90s. Not anymore. Not anymore, my friend. 21st century now. Keep it in your eye sockets.
Yeah.
Expert 3. Simpsons comic 57, How the Vest Was Won. A vest referring to some kind of competition, dancing competition, in which Ned and Marge, I thought there was a typo at first.
Yeah, I think this might be a little side story in this comic. I don't think this is anything to do with the actual, because the cover and the title don't seem to have anything to do with what's going on in this story.
Don't you invest? I guess you invest in cycling. Do you not invest in dancing competitions? Is that not a thing?
Possibly. I thought it was something to do with possibly Nelson's vest, because it was like Jimbo and the Bullies.
Yeah, the cover, which you've helpfully included, it does have a nice little picture of Maude smiling on there. It says, "What can save Bart from the pounding of a lifetime?" And we've got Jimbo Jones in a cool set of sunglasses and hat, his regular hat. But anyway, onwards to excerpt 3. So here's what happens. Marge is talking to Maude at the fence in between their houses. How unusual, I wrote. Marge says that she doesn't know what to do because most men are married and their wives don't want them going out with other women except, and here's more of that garbage Bongo humor, the wife of the one called Jimmy the scumbag.
Yeah, it's just, weak. I'll interject now. Maude being on, this is the only cover that I can find Maude on at all anywhere. So that makes me think that she may have died just prior to this being released.
Well, that's 57, isn't it? Episode 57. It was monthly, right?
Yeah. I just briefly had a brief detour to find Homer and Maude, and neither of them are looking at Maude.
Oh, good. Although that is only a snapshot, but let's give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. This is 7 issues after that, so it's 7 months after the last one we saw, actually. So it's hard to place, but I feel like the reason she was on the cover is maybe that she just died. But that would mean there were.
If your octuplets search put you within a few months of her death, then yes, this could be the Maude Flanders tribute issue in which she was of such little importance that the only tribute she got was an unexplained photo in the corner. Yeah,
and Maude and Marge talking over the fence. I don't think I've ever seen before or since.
Just thinking of that. Yes, it is really unusual. But let's say she had just died. It's weird that they just plowed on with having her in there, because I'm guessing they would have known several months in advance when they were drawing these comics that was going to happen. But maybe Maybe the Bongo world is such a laissez-faire place that they were just like, we just draw whatever we want. We don't need to know what's going on in the Simpsons world.
I'm thinking maybe they didn't have any sort of. I don't think Fox would get in touch with them and say, look, we're thinking of killing Maud Flanders. So I'm thinking maybe they just had a bulk of comics already ready to go before she was killed off.
Yeah.
And then sort of catching up.
And
again, the next appearance is number 62. So that's not that far away. And that's like a post-death joke.
Okay.
But yeah, back to this one.
So Ned then rocks up, and he says, I don't want to shatter your chatter, but he offers to take Marge out to the dance and says, in my Sunday school days, I got the bronze medal in the Hokey Pokey-thon. Maude stands arms side by side, kind of like strangely leaning forward, and like sassily and sadly staring at Ned. Marge does the right thing, and she turns to Maude and says, is this okay? Clearly, it is not.
Yeah. She's initially seems quite smug, though, about it. Like, when Marge says, is everything okay? She says yes. Like, she doesn't do the typical, what we've expected of Maude, where she would actually say, like no sugar. No, you can't do this.
No aggression, no passive aggression, no low-key hostility.
She's just very, very smug, like, oh, I trust Ned. But then you see in her face that she doesn't. And again, this is all very strange considering this is the last comic appearance before she dies. The last thing you really see about her is that she maybe doesn't trust her husband.
Yes, and although, he did go through his own trauma after she passed away before he found his way back to love, finding love in all the wrong places. So Maude replies and says, whatever Ned wants is fine with me, which seems a little bit threatening. But, she quickly puts in, we've already planned to stay in to read Bible stories. And she does doe eyes at Neddy. And she's kind of grinning, but she's also like gritting her teeth, and she talks about the generations of Esau and Oholibama, which I did look up and is a real person from the Bible. And so I wanted to ask you about Maude's level of knowledgeability about the Bible. She's a Bible reader, but is she like a Bible scholar? Does she know her stuff?
I don't think so, because when they adopt the Simpsons kids, I looked at this recently. When they adopt the Simpsons kids, they're playing a Bible game, and you get a star for every question you get right. And Maude, I think Maude has as many stars as Lisa. Maude only has 2 stars on her face, whereas Rod and Todd are faces covered in stars. So either she just, she lets them answer, or she doesn't know that much.
I'd have to say, knowing Maude, she's letting them answer. She's letting the kids get the points. Homer J would.
Yeah.
His face would be covered in stars, but probably not, because he wouldn't know the answers. But he would aim for it. He would try and take those kids down, and Lisa would school him with her atheistic Bible knowledge. Yeah. So Neddy says then it's settled, and they decide to go. And he reaches over the fence and grabs Maude's hand. Ka-ching! He reaches over the fence and grabs Marge's hand and says, tonight, Marge, you and I do the swing thing. And Maude Flanders is visibly shaking and gritting her teeth as she stirs and attempts to remain calm. And even Marge is like, whoa, this is overstepping line. She says, suddenly, I've got second thoughts, but okay.
Yeah. I've put, do we think Maude fears that Ned feels about Marge the way that she knows Homer feels about her? Does she worry that Ned might be leering at Marge? It seems that way with her face in this.
It does. It's hard to read. But we've got to say from other contexts, she doesn't seem particularly worried. We've never seen this before anywhere else. And maybe this little glimpse of insight is the first time we see, just deep down inside, she's got a little bit of a pang of jealousy that maybe Neddy doesn't think she's the be-all and end-all.
Yeah, and she doesn't like it at all, does she?
She does not. She's shaking with apoplectic rage. although we did establish earlier that it was probably just anger and not rage. So then we kind of cut to something looks to be in the same story, but relatively unrelated, as Homer rocks up to the door and says, it looks like he came out of the blue and says to Maude, would you mind taking care of my kids for a couple of hours? And she says yes, and guess meaning that she does mind and doesn't want to do it. And she puts a hand over her mouth with her lazy eyes. Homer, absolutely undeterred, says, okay, Maggie has just shit herself, and hands the baby over to Maude and does a runner and leaves his 3 children with Maude. Yes?
Yeah, which is, I don't think that's ever happened before. I don't think Homer's ever dropped the kids off with Maude before, which is strange. Yeah, this is the same comic, but maybe like a few pages later. And Homer is going to stop Ned and Marge, but Maude is not.
That's right, yeah. Maude, so in this story, Homer has had enough, and he's going to stop this shenanigans going on between Flanders and his wife. And his solution is to drop the kids off at Maude's house. Maude, not worried though. Obviously, Maude, she's more trusting than Homer, even though she's got her doubts. But, you know, is this after the Flanders tried to baptize their kids?
Yeah, this is like really close to a death. So this is like, you know, that's already happened. So he's probably forgotten though.
He's forgotten, yeah, he's forgotten. He's forgotten that Sideshow Bob tried to kill his children and her children. He's forgotten that she hates him. He's forgotten that she tried to baptize his kids into religion. He's just no idea. Again, I'm surprised when he even remembers her name.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that. Yeah, it's interesting that he does know who she is. He doesn't just say, hey, I'm going to leave the kids here.
I think he's got to at least put in the effort to say her name if he's going to drop his kids off with her for several hours, even if he, in his own ham-fisted way, is attempting to save their marriage.
Yeah, which, again, Maude is not rushing out to do the same thing.
All right, so moving on, the last one we're going to have time for today is our very first non-canon special story, as far as I'm aware of, and it is from Simpsons Comic 62, Bart, Simpsons Bible Stories. It's a Noah's Ark parody. Does this predate? They did an episode of Bible Stories, didn't they, at some point?
Yeah, no, this is after that. I remember buying this comic as a kid specifically and remembering this Maude bit. So I remember that this was the first time that she was in the comic after she died.
Okay.
Which is interesting.
And it's canon, so it's okay.
Yeah. It's just 3 different Bible stories. But no, it's just it's the same as what they did on the TV show. It's just 3 different Bible stories.
Did they do Noah's Ark on the TV show or not?
No, they're all... The 3 that they do in the comic are 3 different ones from the show, at least.
Did Bongo Comics ever do anything like original, or is it always just taken off something that happened on the show?
It's either taken off the show or a parody of something.
One thing I do know that they expanded a lot more was the Radioactive Man, right? They did a lot of comics on Radioactive Man, and I wanted to look into Maude's appearances there. Maybe one day, if she's appeared enough times in Radioactive Man, there'll be a Bongo Radioactive Man Maude Cast Special. Episode 69, 72, 36. Who knows?
Yeah.
So, onwards and upwards. There's a ripped Ned and Maude wearing a somewhat saucy blue all-in-one. And Ned says, because he's Noah, we got to start building right away. And the kids say, oakley dokley do. Maude says nothing, just a placid smile, as we get often in these comics. Homer's overhearing from behind the bushes. Yeah,
this is just sort of the setup. Maude doesn't speak, she just complies. And obviously Homer, hears things and thinks we're getting in on this. Because I think, again, Noah, it's strange because Ned is playing Noah, etc.
Yeah.
But then Homer and the gang are just the Simpson family.
And they're just kind of made up as well. Like they don't, like these characters don't exist in Noah's Ark. There isn't another family that sneak on board the Ark.
No, it's just the Simpson family.
So we cut to all the Simpson family essentially covered in shit with a dinosaur behind them below deck on the Ark. Bart says, "I can't stand this anymore. I'm going up on deck." And whom would they see up there but Noah's wife, aka Maude Noah, in the rain, happily with an umbrella, looking over the side of the Ark, just staring there while Homer and Bart and bizarrely a goat are looking at Maude and saying, "We can't let Noah's wife see us."
Yeah, I like that again, she doesn't get a name. She's just Noah's wife, this is the first thing I think I've looked up for this entire, 15 episodes. But Noah's wife was called Nama.
Oh, which is Maude backwards.
Yes, exactly. And the goat's just there for setup, isn't it? But strange that it also talks.
It's weird that a goat's there, and it's weird that the goat can talk, because none of the other animals I see there can talk. Well, maybe they can. But a goat is often used to represent Satan, isn't it? So I wondered. They didn't seem to hint at that. But that's where I'd be going if I was drawing this. I'd give him a little bit of a satanic hue.
Maybe.
Anyway,
I think it was much simpler than that, and just that a goat rams things.
We need something to bump into Maude and knock her off the side of this Ark. Spoiler alert. The goat then in panel 4 and 5, apropos of nothing, says, "Hey, watch where you're going." Bart and Homer are not even close to this goat, and yet somehow they bump into him, and the goat says, "Watch where you're going." And then he goes around the back of them, because he's at the side of them. He goes around the back of them and blasts through the middle of them, shouting, "Grrr!" Knocks them out of the way, continues running straight into Maud's arse, and knocks her like 6 foot high in the air, sending her over the side of the Ark, never to be seen again.
Yeah, it's not the most tasteful way of bringing her back, but again, it starts just off a chain of, particularly in the comics. Like I can think of at least one example in the TV show, but particularly in the comics of Maude just coming back to be murdered.
Making a post-death appearance just to be killed again.
Yeah. But yeah, I just remember this. I included this one because I just remember it vividly from being a kid. I remember there was like a comic shop in Wigan as well where you could buy the American, like the kind of smaller, not glossy, like American ones. And I got this one in like a
Down
American
wallpaper supplies.
Yes.
Sean on that. He just sent me a birthday message today.
Lovely.
Hello, Sean.
I used to buy all the World of Springfield figures from there.
There's Sean and another chap who I didn't know, but very good shop. No longer in existence in Wigan.
Yeah.
Allen's. They bought their stock off Allen's Records. I used to buy my comics from Allen's prior to that. When I was a wee bairn, because people out there don't know that, but Nathan is 16 years younger than me. So when Nathan was buying these Bongo comics for the real time, I was already a grown-up. But when I was buying my comics for the first time, that predated The Simpsons. Simpsons came out when I was 16 years old. Do the maths.
Yes.
And
I was -1, I believe.
-1, just before you were born. But I don't know where you get your comics in Wigan these days.
Don't know. Smiths
of Wigan. Still sell those Bongo comics, I think. Or some version. They're probably still reprinting them.
Yeah, I think they still do Simpsons comics.
Really? I don't think there's new ones, are there?
Well, I don't know. I'm kind of I'm going to look into it, but I thought I'd seen them on sale. But maybe they were maybe they were reprints.
Maybe they reprint. Because they got a lot. They got, like, if you bundle them all together, if you look, on those comic sites, if you put them all together, there's 300-400 episodes, maybe 300 or whatever. If you put them all together, that's a lot of Simpsons comics. Man, we're not going to run out of Maude anytime soon, of pictures of Maude sideways just staring off into space. We're not going to.
Yeah. The only other thing I wrote down about this was that the kids and Ned, obviously because it's just like a non-canon comic story, but nobody cares.
No, because they come in, they say, "Daddy, Mummy's gone to heaven. Ned, ripped Ned, again, not really particularly fussed, says, well, that's going to make repopulating the earth a bit of a dilly of a pickle.
Yeah.
All he's concerned about is more Fland babies to repopulate the earth. But granted, that is his job as Noah. Once this is all, once the doves are out and the high ground is clear again, he's only got one job.
Yes. But she's gone. She's dead.
She's dead again. She died in the fictional Bible. She died in the real life Springfield. And, spoiler alert, we're only still on season 5. So we've got a little bit of a ways to go before we see the real T-shirt canon, Maude, death, cross yourself, like you were in church, say a little prayer for Maude Flanders. And that, Nathan, that is the end of our content for today. We did have another strip, a real humdinger. I think we're going to save it for the next Bongo round.
Yes, I believe that I, at some point, will go back in time and write that comic.
The next one?
Yeah. The tease I will give is, that's an idea I've had in my head for quite a long time. And also within the first 3 or 4 panels, there's a reference to RuPaul.
There is. And so if you, listener, can read Nathan's mind and think of which idea he's been thinking of for a long time, you can probably predict what that comic is going to be. I'm going to give you a clue, one clue. It's another Hitchcock referencing strip. It's a good one, though. It ties in heavily to something we talked about in the last few episodes. Anyway, Nathan, no time for any more shenanigans, though we went long. We're going to have to go into the song.
Yes.
How you feeling about that?
Yeah. Bongo done.
Bongo done. Claps hands and wipes hands clean of bongo dust. Who's going first?
You.
Oh, it's never too early for a little Yuletide cheer.
2 more outfits, Mexican and snowy.
We've decided to go Mexican tonight. Come and smack the old piñata.
Joy in one panel.
Stirring off into space with a duck face.
Octuplets present.
Snow angel in our yard in tentacly ticks of the clock.
Rod eyeing up Lionel Lenny.
I've got great posture and I'm really engaged in your Moses cosplay.
Panel 3, smugness.
Is there something wrong with her? Is there something wrong with her? Is there something wrong with her?
Abrupt and clear yet ignored.
Minimal concern for the kids as the world burns.
Namar.
Naked Maude.
First of many post-death Maude deaths.
Skinny dipping Maude.
Mole of Maude.
Full frontal Maude.
Violent.
Nothing to be ashamed of Maude.
RuPaul. The end.
We did it. Episode 15 of the Maude Cast. Technical difficulties at a minimum. Drama at a minimum. Content at a maximum. Statman John's got a new job, and we nailed the first in a round of almost certainly endless Bongo casts. Hooray for comics, hooray for the Simpsons, hooray for us, and hooray for you listeners. It's a singular of making it to this point in the podcast.
Yes. Good job.
Good job, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.